Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey with Clarita, the podcast where we will discuss valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Subscribe now to Begin, Build, Blossom, and let's embark on your business journey. Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you, whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation. Welcome to today's episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey. If you're a small business owner striving to make a mark in the digital world, this conversation is for you. For over 7 years, Dazjon Designs, a digital branding agency, has empowered small businesses to build a strong online presence. Dazjon helps ambitious entrepreneurs strategically align their vision to connect with their ideal audience through top-notch services, including web design, branding, and asset development. Join us as we dive into the journey of Dazjon Designs, uncovering the passion and strategy behind their mission to support and grow driven businesses like yours. Get ready to be inspired and learn how to elevate your brand in today's competitive landscape. Welcome, Dazjon. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Clarita. It's wonderful to be here. I'm doing well. And yourself?
Great. I'm doing great. I'm even happier now that you're here. So thanks for joining us.
Yes, of course.
All right. So we are going to start with a segment we call Rapid Fire. So the aim is to get brief responses, but if you feel the need to expand on anything, please go ahead to do so. We'd love to hear what you have to say. So let's get started with 2 words, one that describes you now and one that described you as a child.
Absolutely. So I'll start with as a child. As a child, I would use the word curious. Curious, trying new things, experimenting, testing stuff out. And that has led into my adult verb I would use as gregarious. So this positivity, this openness, this having large levels of patience, dealing with people. I think those both summarize myself pretty well.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. We met at a networking event and I could see all of that. From meeting you, I would also describe you that way.
Oh.
And and let's move on to the name of your business and what do you do in business?
Absolutely. So thank you for that wonderful introduction as well. So Dazjon Designs focuses on literally that design and web design and graphic design and now incorporating strategy. So it's not just focusing on making things beautiful. It's making sure that they function and that they work and that they make sense.
Great. Thank you. And what were you doing before you started your business?
Absolutely. So my career has been built in corporate communications. So I have an overlap between my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9, which is now turning into my 9 to 5 moving forward, as far as communicating with people, helping them to grow their understanding, making things make sense, right? Taking these gray concepts and making them to something that's really black and white.
Great. And I caught that you mentioned you're moving from part-time to full-time.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a huge deal. Congratulations.
That's the goal, right? That's the goal. I want to be realistic, but I am really excited to start off 2025 as a full-time business owner and put my all into something that I have never done before without my corporate safety net. So I'm very excited.
Great. Okay, we're going to talk about that some more because there are some people still trying to make that decision and figuring out when is a good time. So it would be good to kind of just walk through how you came to that, and maybe you might be able to help somebody. And we mentioned that you've been in business for 7 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So during those 7 years, what's one of the best moments that you've had in business so far?
I would say my first paying client, really. Like the first client I ever had, like back in the day, right? Just the fact that someone was willing to pay me for something I was willing to do for free because I genuinely enjoyed it was like really eye opening and definitely sticks with me now, right? Of thinking about, well, what else do I already love to do that I can maximize on? So yeah, that was probably my my greatest achievement is just discovering that I could be a business.
Nice. I could certainly see that. Having that first paid client.
Yeah.
And you, like you mentioned, actually paying for something you do for free. That shows how much you love what you're doing, right? So it's great to get that encouragement by having somebody come and be your first client. And on the flip side of that, what is the lowest moment that you've had so far?
I just want to keep in context that I have not felt the weight of like this business being my, like putting food on my table kind of thing, right? So if there is a low, I don't think I've experienced it yet, but trying to do my best to kind of prepare myself or to build a network so that if and when that low does come, I'm prepared and that it doesn't just like knock me out. Like a lot of people start businesses and a lot of people close businesses. And so as I kind of continue to build my repertoire and build my client books, I'm a strategic thinking, forward thinking person. I like to plan out as far as possible. So I'm happy to say I haven't experienced that yet, but we'll see. We should do an update in like a year.
We certainly will do an update. Yes. And is there a movie or a book that you'd recommend?
There is a book that I absolutely love and I want to grab it, but I won't stand up. It's called Switch. It's by Chip and Dan Heath. And I got this book in undergrad. So I did my bachelor's degree in communication design and technology. And the book is basically about how to make a change, how to replicate change. And it really addresses multiple avenues of like life, work life, personal life, finding ways to avoid conflict or work around conflict. And it has like pictures in it if it's really helpful, like little comics to walk you through the different concepts. Love this book. I recommend it to so many people just to help you think about I want to make a change in any different layer or segmentation of your life. And these are 9 key steps of how you can execute those. So I found that book very, very helpful.
Yeah, it sure sounds like that. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing that with us. I really love this part because I'm actually building a list of books. So it's if you recommend that book, I'm thinking that's a really good book that I need to add to my list. So I have a running list going on now.
Absolutely. It's really a great book. I have others if you want a list, but we'll just leave that one there for you. Sorry.
All right. We will be talking some more. So I'm sure I will get more books to add. And so we're going to move now to the begin segment. And here we like to find out when did you know that you would be an entrepreneur? Is it something you thought of as a child or is this all new to you?
It's somewhere in the middle. Like as a young person, I have, of course, had that like pull to want to be independent, like want to earn my own money. So having like a babysitting business or having like, okay, I'm going to, what chores can I do to get money so I can like have my own space, but like have my own, income. But it wasn't until about like 8 to 10 years ago that I even started thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or that was in the cards for me, because I think kind of fulfill the environment you're surrounded by in a sense, right? So if your parents kind of work jobs, your grandparents work jobs, your friend work jobs, you're like, I'm just gonna get a job. Like, no one that I'm like very, very, very close to is pursuing entrepreneurship. They have a very steady job, they're building their career. And I was doing the same thing. And not to say that I won't go back and do the same thing either, but just assuming that, okay, I'm just going to have a job, getting my degree, and then getting into different workspaces where you meet new people, you network, you connect, you kind of tell them about your extracurricular interests, is how I got my first client when I was working in nonprofit about 10 years ago. And so that's when that spark kind of came of like, well, I have this person who's willing to pay me for it. What else can I do? And just starting to slowly build a reputation amongst your personal acquaintances, then friends, then family. And then you kind of get to a point where now you're reaching out to people beyond that to offer services. And then you just start to kind of grow and build confidence. So I don't think I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I know it now, but I have been working up to this point for probably about a decade to get to a point where I'm like, okay, yes, I'm really seriously going to put my full, like, jump hands, shoulders, knees, and toes into this.
Nice. And I really like about you mentioned that your first client was before you even thought of your business as a business, right? It sounds like that to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's nice that you actually embraced it. We know we love something, but we don't really push ourselves to maybe make it into a business. Or sometimes we actually keep doing it for free for a long time when really it could become, the way that you bring an income. And it's something that you truly love to do. So it's good to have something that achieves both the bringing in of the money and the love of what I do all day.
Exactly. And who doesn't want that? You know what I mean? Like, that's the dream for a lot of people, is to not just do something because it brings money in, because you actually have some sort of hopefully interest and, at the best level, passion for that. Like, it's genuinely what you want to do. So
Right. Yes. And when you identified that you had your first client and you're telling yourself, I'm going to make this into a business. What were the steps that followed?
So the first thing for in graphic design, really, what you'll really see emphasized is having a strong portfolio. So at that time, when I got my first client, I was still very kind of shy or like bashful to like offer services. Like, I wasn't putting out ads like, oh, come to me for graphic design. I was only doing graphic design at the time. I wasn't doing web design at that point. I was just doing logos, flyers, invitations, like things like that. And so I went and gathered all the stuff that I had done in school. I had gathered the work that I did for that first client. I started to do some just like concept projects, like redoing branding for some name brand companies. Like, I was like, oh, you never know. It's on the internet. They might see it. They might want to interview me. I don't know. But wanting to build up my book so that if and when I did get more clients, I could say, oh, this is what I've done. Here are different examples, because I know that's what I like to see when I go to work with someone. What have you done before? And can you replicate that for me? After that, I started to get more encouragement from my friends and my family to start to share and tell people that I was doing this. So not just folks stumbling across it, but actively sharing what I was doing, not selling, but just networking and expanding that vision. So of course I had to get like business cards. So I went, got business cards. I made a website. I made my social media pages. So just started to slowly build what I felt like was legitimacy for my business. I didn't jump into getting an LLC until 2018, maybe 2020. It was definitely way more recent than when I had actually started doing business. When I was meeting people and learning about what they had done in business, they were like, well, you're not really bringing in income. You don't need to jump out and like get an LLC. And that is something that I have seen dozens of people in the time that I have been pursuing this do. Like, they're like, oh, I want to start a business. I have to get an LLC. And then they don't pursue the business for like within a year's time, if not less. So you went through all this paperwork just to not pursue the business. And I don't want to jump into the advice piece, but that's something I do try to tell folks about. Like, get into the work, get some clients, then do the official, paperwork and stuff later, because likely you're not bringing in enough income to justify that anyway.
And just to talk a little bit about the LLC. So it really depends, I would say, on what the person is looking for. The process may stop them from doing the work. So that can become an excuse. And others, they jump into the work and then make it more official with the LLC. So I think either way works. The benefits of the LLC, in my opinion, is in terms of how you appear to people. Like some people want to work with an LLC and some people don't mind just working with just a person without the formal structure yet. And others, it's about protection, like legal protections. So it definitely depends on where you're at. But I do see where some people would probably just focus on the legal aspects instead of doing the actual business, and that keeps them behind when, as you're saying, you can actually do the business and then move on to the legal. So it just all depends on what you're looking for sure. But it's always good to hear how it happens for different people. And you mentioned about the share and tell part of it. And for me, that's a big deal. The people around us are the last to know about what we're doing because we're not, or I don't know if it just becomes difficult to talk to the people we're closest to. So you mind talking a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of people being hesitant to talk to folks who are closest to them because they are worried about their opinion or their judgment. And so if they are sharing information about themselves with strangers and the stranger doesn't really, perceive it well, then it's like, oh, it's a stranger. Like, that's totally fine. But if it's like your mom or, your favorite aunt and they don't like your choice of business idea or what you're choosing to pursue, then that I think is a lot more impactful. For me, it was the opposite with my network and my friends and family. They're overly hyper supportive, like I couldn't be more blessed to have them in my life. And so I leaned on that to build my confidence. So getting comfortable talking about myself, what I do, thinking about how am I pricing these things. It was much more simple for me to talk to people I actually knew and had their phone numbers before I ever even considered, reaching out to strangers or trying to do an email blast or anything like that, because I just was not in a space or really in a mindset of like how to execute that, right? My friends and family are like, yeah, this sounds great. Go, go, go. But they were not like, here is a mentor or like, here is a website you can visit or stuff like that. I had to build that for myself. And fortunately, because my corporate experience had the communications lens, the design lens, I was able to, it just kind of naturally compounded on itself where I was just in spaces with people who spoke this language, who could connect me with resources, who could help me think through what my next steps were and how to execute them, not overwhelm myself and do too much too quickly, and just gradually build my small business into what I envisioned reaching as a corporation, right? Also during these past 10 years, I did my bachelor's degree, I did my master's degree, I traveled, I have family. Like, it was not just me like, okay, I'm going to work and then I'm going home. Like, there's so many other factors that go into like building a business, and keeping all that in mind, time really flies by so quickly. So when you are in hustle mode, you have to be really in hustle mode and try your best to still have some type of work-life balance. You don't want to leave corporate just to like work 24/7 as an entrepreneur, just be overwhelmed there. You want to maintain that balance somehow, depending on your industry.
Okay, great. And you mentioned a mentor. Do you have a mentor right now?
I do. I have a mentor through SCORE, score.org. They're a free, I believe, national mentor mentee program. And I have had my mentor for about 6 months. This is not my first mentor. I've had mentors in other nonprofits, but this is my most recent. And the timing was perfect because it really helped me over the last 6 months to rev up for this 2025 push. And I am ecstatic just having someone to kind of help me, motivate me when I'm still hesitant about stuff or unsure about things, to give me that, the resources or encouragement or connect me with other people. My mentor has helped me walk through or think through my business plan, has helped me to work on developing my network even broader, brought me clients directly. Like, he's been phenomenal. Shout out to you, Larry. He's been so helpful. And I'm just really excited to kind of have that additional person who's like, yeah, they'll give you advice, but it's not that personal go, go, go advice. It's like tangible steps of like what they recommend you do next. And you can choose to do it or not, but you have someone who's been in this business, who's started from scratch, who's gotten government contracts and all these things that people talk about wanting to do. They've done it, and now they're able to help you leverage their skills for your own success. So I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with SCORE. And that's how I met you, Cleta, through through that Women in Business networking event. Like, if it wasn't for SCORE, I wouldn't. And for my mentor, like, he literally had to shove me out of the door and say, go, because in the digital space that we're very, very used to being in, I was like, oh, I'm going to do emailing. I'm going to do some calls. I'm going to reach out to folks digitally on social media. And he's like, you need to go meet people face to face.
Yes.
That was a challenge for me.
And it was so great to meet you. I had a good time there. I really enjoyed meeting you and all the other amazing women. So I'm really glad your mentor encouraged you to come out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Now it's like second nature. Now I see a networking event, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going. Oh, I'm going to that. Like, I'm prepared. I have my talking points. I'm like ready to connect. So I am really happy, because if I hadn't, maybe I would have gotten to that point eventually, but because of my mentor encouraging me, I am at that point now. So that makes all the
Yes.
difference.
Yes, having that kind of support is amazing, and just someone you can speak to. Sometimes just the person listening is enough, and knowing, considering that the person has that background, really makes a difference too. So their input is very valuable, and we will definitely put the information for SCORE in the show notes. So look out for it. It's a great resource for persons like ourselves, small business owners. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yes.
And when it came to choosing the name for your business, what process did you go through? I know it has your name in it, but I'm thinking you had quite a bit of a thought process there.
What I will say is that someone who works in branding and communications, it is very hard. Well, like, it's almost like they say doctors make the worst patients, right? So it's like, you can do for others, but when it comes to you, it's like, well, no, well, I don't, well, maybe I don't. So I went through several names before I got to Dazjon Designs, right? And so I was just trying to be, I think I was overthinking it. I think I was trying to be like kitschy and, oh, when people see it, and then this will be the logo. It was just too much. And so I thought of like Occam's razor, right? It was like the simplest explanation, the simplest direction is the way you should go, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop with all this frills and fluff and just get straight to the point. Dazjon Designs. I'm Dazjon. I design. That's it. Like, if at some point, which, you can change your business name, you can do a DBA name, you can always switch those things up. And I was just getting too focused on trying to be trendy instead of just focusing on just being direct. Like, this is it. People have had a hard time with my name since I was born. And and I was like, I don't want to put my name in it, because then it's hard for them to say it, and it's going to be hard for them to say my business. And I was like, you know what? They will learn. They will learn to say my name. It's my name and it's important to me. So they will figure it out. And that was really it. I've been Dazjon Designs ever since, of just I just wanted to not change or make things easier for people I don't even know yet, right? Like, I don't know these potential clients. I just know myself. And when my name is in lights or on a banner or on this podcast title, I just want it to be straightforward and simple. Nothing frilly.
Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but Does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation. Wow, because even for me, I remember I'm trying to come up with a name and I allowed that to keep me from moving forward for a while. So I totally understand the thought process. But of course, people, it's good to have your name out there. People will learn your name. I've been practicing it a little bit. I'm sure I still haven't gotten it all right, but I'll try.
No, I think you're doing well. You're doing
All
well.
right. Well, thank you. So we're going to now move on to the build segment. And here we like to focus on the boldest thing that you've done since starting. So I know you've started a business that was bold. We've talked about you moving from part-time to full-time. So that is pretty bold. So maybe now is a good time to talk about how you made that decision and anything else you'd like to add here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the corporate space for somewhere between 8 and 12 years. So I'll go with that. I'm like thinking through my resume, like, and so in every role, I've always wanted more autonomy, more ability to contribute. And I think the best way to build that autonomy is to be your own business. So my most recent role, I was laid off. I was laid off from my most recent corporate role. And I was like, okay, so I can put my head down, focus on doing, 20, 30, 50 job applications per day, understanding that the landscape right now is extremely challenging. Every source I've ever seen is talking about the job market being very difficult to find employment. I'm looking at LinkedIn, which is full of people like day 297, no job. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I could look at this as like time where, okay, I need to hurry up and get back into the workforce. Or I can kind of take this time and be like, you said you've always wanted to have more creativity, more autonomy, more of you pushing forward and being like the boss, which, let me not put air quotes, being the boss, right? So this is that time to do that. I think I've always just been on this growing in the corporate ladder mindset. And so I've always chosen when I've left a role, but this is the first time I've ever been in this situation. And I was like, this is actually kind of perfect. Like, it's a new year. I want to pursue my business. Who doesn't want to do the new year, new me, doing my thing, switch up? And I was like, this kind of aligns perfectly. So I decided not that I'm going to not apply to corporate at all, right? I think it's nice to have a safety net, but I want to lean into 100% my business, pushing forward with giving this passion that I've had that was more of a hobby turn into a business and really building it into the communications firm that I aim it to be. So Dazjon Designs is really a subsidiary of what I want my business to be, 5 years from now. So I'm excited to lean in and build that. And just in these last couple of months, I've already started making so many new connections. Hello. And learning so much about business, being an entrepreneur, what it takes, what is necessary, and also what's not necessary. I think a lot of people kind of overthink certain things in business, and it's we discourage ourselves from pursuing it because it's just easier to get a job and do that job. But having that like satisfaction of like, I did that, I built this thing from scratch. I'm excited to continue having that feeling. I'm excited to be able to look back like, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm very sorry to hear that you were laid off. I am very encouraged by the way you see it as an opportunity and that you're now going to focus really continuing to work on your business. I just really love that attitude. It will take you a long way and very, very excited for you. This is an amazing opportunity.
Thank you. I look at it as such as well. I am very, very excited. Because, sometimes you don't want to step out, but it's like, okay, you have to step out. Like, you just get pushed into the pool, so you have to swim kind of a thing. So it's like I could be focusing on doing applications and use my entire day for that, or I could do something that I actually care about and have a side of applications as like a backup. I think it's always good to have a backup. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a backup, because in the effort of pursuing your dreams take a while to come to fruition. So we have to be realistic at the same time. I'm not like willing to be a starving artist or anything like that. So there's balance that has to be maintained. But I think it just kind of all came together really well. Like if I didn't get this nudge, I don't think I would have quit corporate and left to pursue my business full time. I don't think so, to be very honest.
I get that. And that does bring up mindset for me because if you've been spending, it sounds to me that you've spent a lot of time working on your mindset and getting into working with mentors and, accepting and welcoming being an entrepreneur. So now that opportunity, a challenge that became an opportunity presented itself, you were ready. And I'm sure there's still a lot of how you call that reconciliation that has to happen in your mind in terms of how much time I should spend on the business opposed to trying to get back into the job market. But all that work that you've done, it's paying off. So I'm hoping that will be a lot easier for you considering you've done all of that work leading up to this. So I think it's going to work out just the way it's supposed to.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Like, I love how you phrase that. I'm going to use it. Like, my mindset, I've been building this mindset this whole time. It's just been manifesting, it's coming to fruition. Because I want to be, I was really excited about this opportunity because I wanted to be realistic. Like, being an entrepreneur is like, sounds really great and everyone wants to dream. And, every other Instagram post is like, I'm working from my laptop in Zanzibar and I make $30,000 a month and I only work 2 hours a week. And I'm just like, that sounds really great. But when a person is trying to actively pursue that, depending on what their industry is, it doesn't look like that instantly. Like it takes time to build and grow. And there's all these little knickknacks and paddywhacks and things that you need to keep in mind while you're building, especially as a solopreneur.
But I was going to say sometimes when we see those stories on Instagram, we've seen it that's when we're paying attention. We kind of come into it at the tail end or when they're at their peak. And we don't know all the struggles and everything that came before that. And they're not about to probably present that because of where they're at the time. But I feel like through this podcast, we get a chance to grow with each other. We get a chance to learn the challenges as well as, we get to learn what works. And I feel like, for me, I like that because I know that we don't get there overnight. It takes work. So to be able to speak with people who are also doing that work, it's a way to encourage myself and others. And it's a way to also learn from those who've done it. And they're learning from you as well, who's just starting, right? Oh, not starting, but we're all in different phases. So it's really good to be able to learn from each other. So I really like that about this podcast.
I loved it. That's why I said yes to coming on. I was like, okay, I don't feel like I need to be, an expert on like, the sharks on Shark Tank where they're like been doing this for 40 years and they've been in the game. I'm like, this is a space where I can help someone who is pivoting or thinking about trying something out. If I can reach somebody in that space, like where I was like 5-6 years ago, then that's great. None of the podcasts I listen to have this focus. So I love this.
Awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about the blossoming stage. We talked about those people who seem to be really blossoming on social media. But for you, I just wanted to know, what does that look like for you and what does success mean to you?
Blossoming for me is very much internal. So I know social media is very important to grow and build your business. I think for me, social media is not my strong suit. I can advise other people on social media, but building my own social media presence, which is very necessary, is not my strong suit. And I okay with that. What I will say as far as blossoming is building my business or building my agency to go from a solopreneurship to a more of a company. So that would mean like bringing on employees or an employee, right? So having someone who can do those things that I am not able to do, like social media, right? Or like following up to every email that's not from a client, right? People wanting to do partnerships or people wanting to film podcasts, help me prep my notes, things like that, right? So that I think is absolutely the next step of my blossoming, of starting to prepare myself mentally to not be the one wearing the 16 hats of doing everything, but being able to step back and say like, okay, I can bring on an employee and they can do X, Y, Z so that I can focus on developing B2B partnerships, connecting, doing more networking events, right? Working on government contracts, state contracts, etc. Because I see the state materials and sites, and I would love to consult. If any of them are watching, please reach out on Dazjon Designs. But when you see a need, you want to contribute, but you have to go through the right channels to do that. So blossoming for me is in a number of ways is just growth. It is not, those are not growth opportunities that people will see, right? If I develop a partnership or get a contract, people won't see that, but I know that I'm doing it and I am now partaking in a mutually beneficial business relationship with other people who have similar goals, right? My focus is on small businesses. So my goal is to make more and deeper connections with other people who want to support small businesses. Now, if at some point in time that, you know, there's a new layer or a new arm of the business for corporate or something like that, then that's different. But right now I'm just focusing on my niche, my core, you know, audience, my core services, and how can I create a solid foundation so that when we do our update in a year, I'm not like, girl, I went back to corporate. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. And so in order to not to try to not do that, I'm like, well, I can't do everything myself. I need to have mentorship. I need to have conversations with people who have done it already. I need to have conversations with people in all types of phases of their career and see where I fit in, see how I can make sure that what I'm doing is sustainable, because this market is very saturated. Web design, graphic design, you see it all the time. And I don't let that discourage me. But I want to be realistic as well. If I need to pivot, who can I speak to about pivoting? If I need funding, who can I go to who knows about funding? That's how I envision blossoming, and success ultimately is to develop a firm. So where it's not just me working face to face with clients, but building a firm that has a board that has multiple leaders of each sector. And we're able to support businesses for our respective areas. But cohesively, we have a shared vision, a shared mission that we're all driving and pushing toward. That I love. I love design, but I love working with people, being around people, talking to them, not all the time. But in workspaces, I love having that collaborative spirit, and not just me wanting to be like the big boss. Like I want to have my fellow my C-suite, etc., that we're cohesively creating this vision. So that I would love.
Wow. I absolutely love that. I love how you have that vision and you're working towards it. And I just love the way you explain it, because that's exactly how I feel. My business is what it is now, but I know exactly where it's headed. And it's similar to you, where you're going to have your C suite and you're going to have all that collaboration. So thanks for sharing that. You just really motivated me. It made me remember what I want as well. So I will definitely be pursuing that. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is part of the dream, right? This is part of success. Yeah. Like connecting with other small businesses and just building together, whatever medium, right? Like this is really cool. I would never start a podcast, but I would love, now I'm enjoying being on a podcast and I'm like, maybe I will try to like get on some other podcast. I don't know, but clearly you've set the stake in the ground. Now I'm like, I'll compare this experience to everything that comes after it. So
Oh well, that makes me very happy. And sometimes when I first ask people to come on the podcast, they seem a bit nervous, but I love that when they get on, it becomes a conversation and we just really just enjoy each other's company. So that's kind of what I want to create here. So it sounds like that's what it is for you. So I appreciate that very much.
yes, absolutely. You're very inviting. So it's easy to kind of feel like, all right, this is not like an interview. It's just a conversation, which is important. I watch a lot of videos and sometimes like this person is not a good host. Like they're just not, this is very awkward.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And that takes us nicely to our closeout segment. Right now, if you don't mind sharing about three practical tips that you'd like to share with someone who's on their journey right now, or maybe thinking about starting, but haven't quite gotten around to doing it. But let's talk to someone like that who's listening right now.
The first thing I would say is write it down. Like whatever it is that you are looking to pursue, that you're interested in, write it down because writing it down makes it tangible. It makes it real. It's like a baked in reminder. I think a lot of people have ideas, but it's just kind of like a passing thought. Like when you get up and go to the kitchen, you're like, well, I'm in the kitchen. And then you're like, you go back to the living room. You're like, oh, I went to get crackers. Right. So write it down. Write down what your to-dos might be to start to make some headway to whatever your goals are. I don't mean to speak broadly, but I'm not sure who's watching this. So if you're in the graphic design space, you're like, I want to start doing graphic design. You don't need to jump in and pay hundreds of dollars for Photoshop and this and that. Just start, get on Canva, get on something to just start to build your motivation because I think as quickly as you can get motivated, you can get demotivated. So first is write it down. Second, when you started to get your to-dos down or just what you want to do down on paper, I would find an accountability buddy. So for most things that I do in life, I try to make a buddy of someone who's like, hey, did you do XYZ? And this is not like a to-do list kind of thing. It's like more of a broader thing. So if something on the list is like, file for an LLC by the end of 2025, your accountability buddy might tap you in June and then again in November. But somebody that you trust, somebody that knows what you want to do, that thinks the way that you think, that's willing to help you, even if it's just a nudge, having another person hold you accountable can make all the difference. Or it can make you second guess and be like, not second guess, but make you pause and say, do I really want to do this now? Do I need to readjust my goals? The third would be to network. And I know that's really like plain, but networking, even if you don't fully know what you want to do, I've seen a webinar for every single thing you could possibly think about. Even webinars called want to start a business, don't know what to do. Like they're literally that straightforward. So if you want to do something and you know what it is, there's a webinar for it. There is a forum for it. There is a alignable group, a Facebook group, a something. If you don't know what to do, there are all those resources for that as well. It's actually how I found SCORE. I just Googled like small business mentor and SCORE popped up. Cause I was like, I don't know where to look. And it came up. And so having just exposure to something low stakes, everything is free. And I'm not saying that it has to be, people don't have to go to SCORE, but there are so many free workshops, webinars to educate yourself on the thing, because what we see on social media may make something seem really easy and tangible. But then as you learn more about it, you may feel like you don't want to go down that path. So just be open to learn more, explore more through YouTube, through webinars. You don't even need to leave the house. Some are in person. You can do those down the line, but just get exposure to what it is so that you are going forth, driving this, pursuing this vision with some actual context of what it's going to take for you to make it and create what your vision of success looks like. So
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. I love that. And I know you mentioned alignable score. You told me about Alignable, and I have since joined. And there are some things called Smart Connects. So you just get to talk to people one on one from the full group. And that has really been great. So thanks for telling me about Alignable, and we'll definitely add that resource as well to the show notes. So one more thing, we part of the networking aspect of things. Through the podcast, we're hoping to create a community, and one of the ways we do that is by connecting listeners with guests. So we always like to ask whether you're open to someone reaching out to you to talk about business, just to learn from you. Once they would reach out saying that they heard about you through the podcast. And I just like for the guests themselves to say to that person, yes, I am willing to talk to you. So go ahead and reach out. So is that something you're open to doing?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I would love to talk to whoever reaches out is interested in digital branding, graphic design, web design. I would love to talk to them.
Great. And what are the best ways that we can reach you?
Sure. So you can reach me at create@dazjondesigns.com, or you can visit my website, dazjondesigns.com.
All right. And I will be adding that to the show notes as well. So look there for more details. And just want to say thank you so much for taking time to be with us today, and for providing so much inspiration, for being so open about your experiences. We really, really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. This was a joy. I really had a great time. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. I'm really glad that you did. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you, Clarita.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, a CME Accounting LLC podcast. Please subscribe and be on the lookout for our next episode. If you'd like to share any feedback with us, please email us at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com.